Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Who among us believes we are getting the best people to represent us in our government? I can only imagine that merely a small group of people think that these individuals are the best of us to represent us. Many reasons for this can be debated. One issue that even the people in government complain about is campaign finance. Many talk about changing it, but I believe none have the right mindset on how to approach the situation. To get in the right mindset, just ask a question. Who really is earning all the money being donated to a campaign? The obvious answer could be the candidate. Yeah, sure, the candidate does a lot of work running for office, but people aren't giving the money to the individual. They're giving it to the goal of getting that individual elected. The money given to a candidate is to get the candidate to hold a position or the seat of power. So who earned the campaign donation? The seat of power is who earned it. People talk about limiting money in campaigns. But what if we change who the money belongs to at the end of the campaign? Would you want to limit the money then? Win or lose, any money left over after a campaign, it should belong to the government to pay down the national debt or to support local governments. If there's no money left over, then the campaign spent it on marketing or polling or staffing or other parts of campaigning. And that should be a boon to the economy. I think the money left over after a campaign should be distributed to the government in a manner depending on the seat that earned it. If the campaign is for the presidency, then 100% goes to pay off the national debt. For a senatorial campaign, 80% will go to the federal government to pay off the national debt. And 20% will go back to the states to spend on the needs of the state. Candidates for the House would have their leftover campaign money divided, 90% to the federal government for the national debt and 10% back to the counties the seat represents. Potentially, I'm open to discussing distributing a small amount to the national committee of the party that the candidate represents, perhaps 5%, like off the top, but really no more than that. Now, some important things need to happen for this to work. And first, transparency. Transparency would need to greatly improve, which we could do because today's world has advantages in technology we didn't have in the past. Currently, the internet is not being used to its fullest potential. And this idea would work on changing that fact. Reporting and publishing campaign contributions in a timely manner as a part of the FEC bio page for every candidate would not be unreasonable. Second thing, for this to really work, PACs or political action committees would need to be removed from the political sphere. PACs work in a gray space for campaign finance and often add confusion to the political environment due to the fact that PACs are less accountable than a candidate. But if there's no limit on contributions to a campaign and there's transparency, then there's no argument for a PAC to exist. I'll admit, I could be wrong. But I have yet to hear a reasonable reason why PACs should be legal in this system that I am proposing. All the money in a campaign should go directly towards the candidate and the seat. And that means it gets spent or allocated to the government. There are probable other restrictions or loopholes that you might be thinking of, and I'd love to hear them. So please send me an email. For example, to tie up one potential loophole, I would say that no individual on a campaign may be paid more than the salary of the position for which they are campaigning. But this is getting into the weeds, and the details of this idea will change as it grows in popularity. So for now, consider the implications of changing the mindset of campaign finance. The potential impact from this idea is tremendous. I believe this will not only change how campaigns are run, but it should change the quality of candidates running. Today's candidates are able to create war chests that roll over from one election to the next. This means that they have a financial starting position significantly greater than the next person who chooses to oppose them. That incumbent doesn't have to fight nearly as hard to get the message out as an opponent. This leads to an individual who are elected time after time until, in some cases, it seems hopeless and to run against them, and so no one even tries. But what if every election, each candidate starts from the same financial starting line? We aren't discussing disparities in name recognition or popularity or work history. This particular argument is about the financial starting line. If every candidate started from financial zero, instead of having millions to fall back on, to use to drown out their opponent, every candidate begins from the same baseline. And the constituents who donate to whichever candidate they want know that their donation isn't going to sit in some war chest, but will help for the purpose of the donation, the campaign, and then potentially living a second life as benefiting the constituents in that state or the counties or pay down the national debt. Can you imagine what that would change?